David Nathan in his book, The Soulful Divas. And we're going to get his take on Aretha Franklin. That's right, Aretha Franklin is up next. Let's talk. What's up, everybody, and welcome back to my channel, Pepe's Point of View, and I am your host, your R&B historian, Pepe. And we're still reading The Soulful Divas. That's right, David Nathan's book, The Soulful Divas, with a foreword by Luther Vandross. And we're reading what chapter is this? Let me check and see real quick. Chapter 3. Aretha Franklin is in chapter 3 of David Nathan's book, The Soulful Divas. And before I read the first page, I just need to put out this disclaimer real quickly is that I'm not affiliated with David Nathan at all. And yes, I do encourage you guys to go out and get this book. It's a great book. And well, let's hop right into it, shall we? I was calling Aretha Franklin from a telephone booth at a subway station in Queens, New York. It must have been around 9 p.m. A promised liaison had gone awry, and I was on my way back to my Manhattan apartment, unfulfilled. There had been no socket to me action, and even though we both knew who had zoomed who, no one had rock steady that night. I paused at the station to check my answering machine, and lo and behold, my were lifted. Miss Aretha Franklin had called to confirm that she and I were going to get together on August 11th, 1980, for a one on one interview for Blues and Soul at her Los Angeles home. Aretha, then newly married to actor Glenn Thurman, had just signed a recording contract with Arista Records at the end of a 12-year association with Atlantic Records, where she'd racked up more gold records and Grammy Awards than any other black female performer. Hmm. Aretha wanted to talk, but I told her there was one condition. You know, I've always heard so much about your cooking. I ventured bravely, and I want to know when I get some of it. Aretha giggled. Well, I cooked something special that day. True to her word, that August evening, after I arrived at her Encino mansion and her son Teddy opened the gates for me, I walked in the kitchen, chowing down on the best peach cobbler I ever tasted. Aretha Franklin, the singular queen of soul, had given me so much through her music through the years, and as much as I loved her for it, I loved her even more for that melt in the mouth, better than ever, to the bone, righteously soulful peach cobbler. As I had my second helping, I mused that Aretha obviously put as much soul into her cooking as she did into her singing. Much has been both written and said about Aretha Louise Franklin over the 30 plus years since she became a bona fide international superstar and, with the passing of time, a musical legend and African American icon. I know because I've written more about Aretha Franklin than anyone else in my career or hers. I am truly thankful that our interviews have led to some serious milestones in my career. As a result of our meetings, I got my first cover story in Blues and Soul, my first feature in Billboard, and my first US Today article. I did my first VH1 show with Aretha, and I take much pride in having written more about Aretha in her music than any other living journalist. Between the countless articles for Blues and Soul, Billboard, and various other publications, as well as liner notes for the reissues of almost all of her music, my name has appeared multiple times in association with my appreciation for her enduring contribution to my life and the lives of literally millions of people of all over the world. I remember asking Aretha during that August 1980 interview if she ever thought about the impact she'd had on so many people with her music. She smiled, almost embarrassed. Hey, I just do my thing, she replied. I never stop singing because that's what I'm here to do. Of all the divas I've met or written about, Aretha has been the one woman who always evokes questions from peers and fans alike who want to know more about the Queen, whether these are comments about her music, her private life, or her fashion sense. Aretha has been the topic of more conversations I've had on the subject of artists I've interviewed than anyone else. From buddies like Josh Prig Jen, who used to sit with me at the rehearsal studios in Manhattan, where she worked and talked endlessly about Aretha. Two, artist manager Sid Johnson. Two, my Washington, D.C. friend Johnny Butler's pal Clinton, a true Franklin devotee. Chats about Aretha have become a staple in my life. I tell people that even with all the interviews we've done, which date back to the late 1960s, I don't know Aretha outside of the professional but personal relationship we've had. That said, over the years, we've shared some We've shared some funny moments and some really good times. I can attest to her sassy sense of down home humor, her quick wit, and her ability to get down with the pots and pans. I can also say that this is a woman who knows what she wants, is clear about who she is in the world of music, and has survived all manner of trends and fads to take her rightful place as a true original. She is an artist who literally began paving the way for a whole generation of female singers from the time she recorded her first groundbreaking album in 1960. She is also, as far as I know, the only recording artist whose first record hit the charts back in 1960 and found herself still on the charts in 1998. If I were to sum up exactly what has made Aretha a pioneer, I will go back to 1960, 7 years before she became a household name, to that first Columbia album entitled simply Aretha. I will go back there because it is within those 12 songs that an 18-year-old girl with the life experience of a woman twice her age brought to the studio a totally unique skill. She was, without a doubt, the first black female to bring the essence of her gospel roots to a range of tunes that spanned Billie Holiday, Who Needs You, The Wizard of Oz, Over the Rainbow, Porgy and Bess, It Ain't Necessarily So, Blues, All Night Long, and Soul, Won't Be Long. Aretha's phrasing was unlike anyone else's. She fused the emotion of the church with a touch of jazz and added a heavy dose of blues. The result made her a lasting original. Even if she never made another album, that 1960 record would have marked her as a once in a lifetime artist. And even though it became a popular to criticize her work for Columbia after she became a musical superstar with Atlantic. Her earlier records for that label speak volumes about her remarkable artistry. Hmm. Well, let's get right down into it, shall we? Well, first of all, having read the first chapters of the other soulful divas in this book, such as Diana Ross, Gladys Knight, Shaka Khan, and I think I'm missing somebody. I must say that this one is taking has taken me by surprise. And the reason why it's taken me by surprise is that I was expecting some knit and grit out of the first page. You know, uh, And I think at this moment in time, this is where I would probably say David is probably thinking about that professional relationship that he has had with Aretha throughout the years, because Aretha's life is definitely not without controversy. And we can go into all of the things that were going on in Aretha's life from the very beginning all the way up. And I would have to honestly say, without reading, haven't read the other pages in this chapter yet, and I get around to doing it. Um, uh, I would like to think that he would bring up some of these topics, and the way it's sounding right now, I'm going to be willing to bet that he's not going to talk about it. David is not going to mention any of these scandals with that Aretha Franklin has allegedly had in her life. I'm just not. I think what I'm going to get out of this chapter when I finally do read it is that Aretha Franklin is the queen of all queens in the music industry. And he's not going to touch it. He's not going to touch it at all. Uh, and I'll leave it at that. But I will say that once again, what I do like about David is that he knows how to capture these R&B divas, and that's what I like so much about this book. And I would like to think that at this moment in time, not having read this book, I think I came across this book once or twice uh, when it was initially released. But I would like to think that David Nathan would definitely, for me, be probably one of the people who would, how would I say it? I think I can follow David Nathan's blueprint when it comes to R&B divas. I really can, because this book, what I'm getting out of this book is what I like to do when it comes to the R&B divas I covered, and that is I don't need to pull, or I desire not to pull from other publications, what other people have said about these divas, so on and so forth. But this is just my own personal take on these R&B divas. So for that alone, David Nathan definitely has my respect. He does. And oh wow. And speaking of respect, that's a good segue right into uh, going back to Aretha Franklin. And what I would say on this in this chapter, I think I probably would title this video David Nathan shows Aretha Franklin, Respect, in his book, The Soulful Divas. I think that he, basically did not want to. He didn't want to ruffle Aretha Franklin feathers, and I think it was because of their professional relationship and all the firsts that he has had with her. And you know what? And I respect that about him. I really do. So once again, he has my utmost respect in that, because at the end of the day, even if you can talk about some of these things, if David could talk about some of these things with Aretha Franklin, I think that he respected his professional relationship with her. And so for that, my hats off to you, David. And hey, check out this book, The Soulful Divas by David Nathan. I'm pretty sure you can look it up and get your copy. I got my copy from Amazon, of course. So I'm pretty sure if you go out to any bookstore, Barnes and Noble, and what have you, that you probably can find it. Or hey, look David Nathan up, on social media, and I'm pretty sure he can tell you exactly where to get the book as well. So, having said that, hey, we're at the 15-minute mark. I'm liking this. So, on that note, if you have made it this far, with my commentary on David Nathan's book, The Soulful Divas, I think that it's only appropriate for me to ask you guys, hey, hang out with me. I really and truly do appreciate your support. Hit the like button, excuse me, the share button, all of that stuff. Leave your comments. I definitely would like to hear what you guys have to say about these divas, and I know you guys have a lot to say about them. I'm not sure why you guys are not leaving your comments, but it is what it is. And over here, I believe my motto is simple: put your behind where your heart desires to be. And whenever I leave my mother's presence, she always says to me, baby, remember, I love you, but God loves you best. I love you guys out there. I'm looking forward to seeing you next video. And until then, you know what to do. Take care of yourselves. All right.